by with our first presenter, who is Kathy Sugat. So I'm going to ask that everybody mute their phones and then mute their lines, and then if you want to speak, unmute. But we'll let our presenters have their time, and then we'll get into discussion. Okay.
So I'll hang up so you can dial in.
Okay, Kathy, you want to welcome? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Sorry, I'm just looking for my presentation here so I can pull that up. Let's see if that's coming up. Can you see my slide? Yes? Okay, thanks, Donna. All right, now let me just organize myself a little bit better here because I need to find my... Sorry. Just trying to move it over so I can find my speaking notes at the same time. Can you still see my slide there? No. Sorry. Okay, I have to wing it here. Okay, you can see my slide all right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. I've lost my speaking notes on my other screen, but that's okay, I'll wing it. Okay, anyways, thanks everyone for allowing me a few minutes of your time on your agenda this morning to just address the committee regarding the draft new official plan and citywide urban design guidelines. I know, I think you guys were hoping that I could have attended about a month ago, but unfortunately it conflicted with other meetings. But we have been making the rounds, trying to get out to meet with many of the advisory committees and just to be able to kind of familiarize you with the draft new official plan, and particularly try to target some of our remarks specific to your areas of interest. So that's my intent this morning. I'll try to keep this as brief as possible and then allow for some questions at the end of my overview. Really what I want to be able to do is just provide you with a few slides to give you some familiarity generally with the new official plan. And then I'll target some of the specific areas of the official plan that would probably be of interest to the committee members, largely around age-friendly city concepts. Although you will find that I'm going to note later that there really isn't a particular policy or section in the plan, and I'll get to that in a couple of minutes just to kind of describe for you kind of the interrelated themes of the plan. And then I'll touch briefly on kind of our next steps, and we'll leave a little bit of time for some questions at the end. So just briefly wanted to kind of give you a bit of a feel for the importance of an official plan, why the city is embarking upon this journey for preparing a new official plan and what that really means to you and as members of the community. So an official plan really lays out that long range vision, and by long range, I'm basically meaning a 20-year vision or beyond. And it's important because what it does is it really sets the framework for decision making. It's a land use planning document, but it really sets that kind of umbrella structure for council decision making, for staff decision making, for budgets, that sort of thing, to kind of align with the vision and the growth and evolution of the community over the next 20 years. So the city embarked upon its journey about 2 years ago, the fall of 2018, to start the preparations for a new official plan. And really we felt it was important at the time that we prepare a brand new document to really align with provincial policy and all of the changes that had occurred since the last time the city updated its document, which was well over 10 years ago. So we released the draft documents, the new official plan, and for the first time ever, a comprehensive set of citywide urban design guidelines. And in the past, or currently, we've got several individual sets of design guidelines that kind of talk about different components of urban design and city building. But we felt it was important that we were going to kind of pull this together under one cover and really have it as a one-stop shop, a comprehensive set of design guidelines. I'll touch on those briefly in a few minutes, but I really want to spend most of my time really helping to make you more familiar with the draft city official plan and the importance of that, and kind of how we're looking to get feedback from the community. What we're about two months into a 3-month or a 90-day window of opportunity for the public and all stakeholders to review the documents and provide us with some feedback. And it's really important at this stage of the game that we get that constructive feedback, even the criticism of the document, because what we need to be able to do is use that information then to improve upon the documents. I'll explain a little bit later, in my second to last slide, just in terms of kind of the next steps or how long this journey is going to take us. But really, this stage of the game, we're looking for that really detailed feedback as much as possible so that we can improve upon the documents before we take them into the next stages of the process. So just to help you understand, the document itself, the new official plan, is really based on some strong themes that emerged during our consultation with the community in the early stages of the official plan project process. And you'll see here at the center of this illustration, what we've tried to portray is that at the heart of all of this is Barrie is evolving and maturing into a mid-sized city. And so it's important for us in our new official plan to be able to set the stage for planning for that evolution to become a more urbanized community. And at the heart of this, we've shown that Barrie as an urban and complete city. And by complete city, we mean that we've got all of the elements across the community, but also the majority of the elements in each of the neighborhoods to satisfy people's everyday needs. And so you'll see in the document itself, and in particular the section or the chapter that's dedicated to that particular theme, discussions and policy direction around what we mean by a complete city and what we mean by planning for complete neighborhoods and compact neighborhoods, and how we're going to ensure that as we mature into a more mid-sized city, that we do indeed have all of the elements available for residents and people employed within the city to feel as if they can function and function well. You'll see this illustration really tries to help us to portray the fact that we've got all of these connecting parts or interconnected themes, and you can't develop or evolve into an urban and complete city without also recognizing that we are planning for a more mobile and connected city, for example. We're also planning, we're a beautiful waterfront community. We've got lots of green space, but we have to protect that. And so we've got a chapter or section dedicated to that. We've also got a section dedicated to planning an attractive city and really nailing home those urban design elements and all of the component parts that are necessary for us not only to plan new neighborhoods, but neighborhoods as they evolve and mature, and ensuring that new developments respect existing areas and that sort of thing. We've also got a chapter or section that deals with resiliency, that deals with cultural city, so a recognition of our past and exploring and celebrating that. Chapter on planning for a prosperous city. So we're trying to look at all of these things, and you'll see that throughout the document there's reference and cross references We felt it was important to structure the official plan around these themes that became very important in what we heard from the community through that consultation effort. So just before I get into a few of the specific sections that I think the committee members will be interested in, I felt it important to just share with you or help you to understand a couple of the maps that really help to provide kind of the basis of the understanding of the document, how it's structured, and then how some of the policies kind of relate to that. So the two maps that I'm showing you are really the foundation to the new official plan and the vision for the future that we've come up with. I'll just see if I can use the pointer here, laser pointer. The map on the left here is entitled the Community Structure Map. And really what that's going to do is help everybody understand essentially the building blocks or that skeletal framework look over time. And really, if you focus on kind of the colored areas, you see a lot of purple here. There's some kind of yellowy orange colors. There's yellow in the downtown, yellowy orange again over here. If you step back and you look at that, you realize that that is kind of a skeleton or the backbone, the framework of the community. And really what we're trying to portray here is areas where you see color, apart from the green, which the green reflects the natural heritage and open space system. The other colors on that map are really trying to help to identify areas where we can expect to see change over time. And with that, I mean, if you look at this yellow in and around the downtown and kind of the waterfront area here, that's an area where we expect to see tremendous change over the next number of decades. And the province also expects us to plan to accommodate significant growth in the downtown and what's called an urban growth center. We've also identified certain areas that we're calling strategic growth areas, and those are these kind of yellowy orange colors there up around by Georgian College and Hospital and the highway, up Bayfield Street in particular areas, out along the Yonge Street corridor, the two GO stations, the Allendale GO station and the Southbury GO station, the Park Place area, that interchange around the 400 at Mapleview, and also the Essa Road corridor and significant parcels there where we anticipate a fair bit of change and more intensive development over time. The purple sections on that map reflect the areas of employment and employment growth, and largely we are directed to protect lands that are in close proximity to the highway, in close proximity to rail corridors, that sort of thing, to ensure that we have enough land to accommodate industrial type jobs and other jobs as we plan for the future. So that first map is, as I say, is called the community structure. The map on the right is the land use designation map. And I felt it was kind of important to just line these two maps up on one slide so it helps you to understand what I was meaning in terms of the colors on the map on the left. If you look at the map on the right, this is where we're reflecting what the land use permissions are and where we can expect to see the most change. So if you look at the area of the downtown again, you see this area in brown reflected here. And what that means is that is where we've identified essentially the tallest building, the tallest buildings, the most dense development to occur in and around the downtown area. The areas out then around Georgian College and Hospital and the related employment areas in that area, we've identified as a specific type of land use where it's largely based on the economic driver, that employment piece first, but introducing additional permissions over time to allow for a mix of land uses, including some residential in and around that area. Which will help to create, again, a more walkable community connected so people have housing choices if they're living in close proximity to where they're working, and they have a mix of other uses that they can rely upon. The red identifies areas of more commercial basis. We're calling them commercial districts, but what we're anticipating there is large redevelopment opportunities. As we know, retail is fragile. We've had consultants help us to understand where we think things are going in the future. And so we've tried to provide opportunity in the land use structure in the plan to allow for things to evolve over time, but also to introduce opportunities for that greater mix of uses, and trying to promote and encourage that type of walkable communities, walkable neighborhoods, and opportunities within close proximity to where people live and work, so that you don't have to rely on your vehicle all the time. Again, then in the south end here, you'll see in the purple colors, we've kind of translated the purple employment areas from here over to the land uses here. We've identified Park Place and some of that retail around the interchange as commercial district, so that although we know they've got large presence right now of retail, we're allowing again for that introduction of additional uses, including residential, all the while protecting the areas that must be kept separate for industrial type uses. So really, it's just what I wanted to portray there was that understanding of we've got a strong community structure, that vision of where we see growth and change happening over time, translated into the land uses and really simplifying the land uses going forward. So we don't have a bunch of different land uses that say the same thing, only with different ranges of densities. For example, I think we currently have 5 different residential categories in our current official plan. What we are striving to do in this new official plan is simplify things, broaden the opportunities, and introduce the opportunity for a more mix of land uses across the entire community, so that people can experience closer, more walkable, compact communities with services and things that meet their everyday needs within close proximity. The yellow on this second map is really reflective of what we're calling neighborhood areas. And we're simplifying things and allowing for a range of mixed uses within those areas, so that, again, people can anticipate to expect to see things in their communities or in their neighborhoods that they'll need to satisfy their daily and weekly needs. So just briefly, I've got one slide here. I just wanted to touch really quickly on the urban design guidelines. As I mentioned, this is the city's first attempt at trying to pull together kind of a one-stop shop, one document that reflects what we expect to see over time as developments come in and propose new development in the community, new neighborhoods, redevelopment projects, that sort of thing. We're really trying to ensure that we set the guidelines both in the official plan. We've got a set of urban design standards or policies that development must meet. And then these design guidelines are intended to be an implementation tool of the official plan. And really what it does is it helps to spell out the specific principles that are important to the development and the redevelopment of sites in the community as we go forward. And so really it's anchored around these principles of design excellence, designing with the human in mind, human scale development, designing with sustainable, resilient, and adaptation in mind. So thinking about where we've got sites, maybe schools that have closed, for example, and there's going to be an adaptive reuse of that. Again, setting kind of the tone and the structure for what the expectations are and how those sites will be redeveloped, redesigned, and integrated into the community. Also designing with diversity in mind and equity, inclusivity. Really what we're trying to do is design the city for everyone, to embrace everyone, to provide opportunities for everyone, and there, you know, are no exclusions in that regard. And then with the context in mind, what we heard throughout the community consultation early on in the official plan project was the need to ensure that as the development changes things or redevelopment occurs within the already built up area of the municipality, that there's a context sensitivity introduced in terms of how new development will relate to existing development in neighborhoods and areas. And so both in the official plan as well as described in the urban design guidelines, we've attempted to address that context in terms of transitions to adjacent, perhaps lower density or lower built form neighborhoods where you might see redevelopment occurring along arterial or collector roads, but being sensitive to the context. And this also, we address historic neighborhoods in that area as well. So both in the urban design guidelines as well as in the official plan. So I just want to quickly, in the next two slides, really, I guess, kind of land the important stuff for the committee in terms of where you would go to find some of the information, the policies that relate to some of the concepts that I believe this particular committee would find of most interest. Because again, I totally appreciate that a 250 some page document can be daunting. We don't expect that our advisory or the council advisory committees are going to have the time or the interest necessarily in, you know, looking through the entire document. So really what I'm hoping I can help you with is to try to target your attention and your time spent in reviewing any of the sections so that you can better inform yourselves. And then if you're able to provide us with some written comments so that we can reflect upon those and perhaps meet with you again in the new year so that we can better understand where your focus is and how we can hope to address any potential changes necessary in the documents. So as I say, I'm going to spend this slide and the next slide just very briefly giving you a flavor for where you can look to find certain things in the document, and hopefully that'll help in you know, kind of scoping your review. So just looking at age-friendly city concepts, I've listed them there, and you can see on the right-hand side, I've tried to identify what sections in the official plan really are the ones that I would suggest most directly speak to those sorts of concepts. Unfortunately, we don't have any one particular section that you could easily go to the table of contents and look down and say age-friendly, here we go, page 35 to 47, there's our set of policies. It's really, if you think back to that wheel sort of illustration I had a couple of slides ago, it really, what you start to appreciate here is that all of these themes are very interrelated. And so you have to kind of look at some of these themes or concepts in these chapters so that you can kind of understand how we've attempted to address some of these things through the new official plan. So for example, the transportation options. We have an entire section of the official plan called Planning for a Mobile and Connected City. And in there you find policies related to how we're going to be planning for more complete streets, for example, and how that's going to feel as the user of the streets, whether you're a pedestrian, whether you're a cyclist, whether you're taking public transit, whether you're using your own private automobile or that sort of thing. It's really understanding and appreciating that all of these users are trying to use the same space, but how can we properly make sure that we are safely planning for the streets and then adapting existing streets as best as possible based on their role or function and trying to accommodate everybody in terms of the users of the streets. There's also a specific subsection in section 4, I believe it's section 4.4, that talks about public transit and planning for that and ensuring that we've got close, alignment in terms of planning new development, new neighborhoods, but also redevelopment and proximity to transit stops and that sort of thing, and planning for transit hubs and places where people can kind of connect and whatnot. Another important concept then, of course, is housing choice or housing options. And really, I see the official plan, you'd want to look at 2 sections of the official plan. Section 2, again, is that one that was kind of the center of that wheel illustration. It's planning for an urban and complete city. And again, in that, you'll see where we go through discussion about the specific elements of the building blocks or that skeletal framework that I discussed. And if you can understand then kind of how we've described those specific elements, then you get a better appreciation for how we're trying to suggest that residential uses are largely going to be promoted almost everywhere, other than you don't want them in industrial areas and areas where we're focused on employment type uses that wouldn't be particularly appropriate to have residential uses then mixed in with them. But as I pointed out on that map, there were certain areas where we are looking to promote additional opportunities for residential uses, where, for example, let's use Georgian Mall and that major existing retail presence right now with massive parking lot areas and whatnot, and it's prime for redevelopment or additional development over time. And so we are suggesting there that there's a real opportunity to add uses there. And I don't think anybody could disagree that Bayfield Street certainly has that sort of potential, but it's also well served with transit and things like that. There's other uses in the neighborhood that would start to create kind of more of that walkable and compact community if you're adding more opportunities for residential in and around some of those where we see them as redevelopment sites. Then as I explored on that image where I showed the 2 maps, then on the land use designation side of things, as I also mentioned, we've really kind of changed things in that the current official plan has all of these various categories of residential, designations. Well, we've kind of done away with that, and we've introduced residential in a number of the other land use designations. And so we believe that that broadens the opportunities. It really presents opportunity for the market to really help to respond to changes over time. And we don't know where things are going. We've all seen such a significant change. I mean, retail, for example, was changing even pre-COVID, but who knows what that's going to look and feel like as we eventually work our way through and evolve through post-COVID. But really what we've tried to do in the structure of the new official plan is to provide opportunities for creative solutions, innovation, and really just setting the stage for what we believe are appropriate permitted uses in these various land use categories that will then set the stage for the market to respond to those opportunities. And you'll see in there where we've then identified, especially in, I believe it's section 2.5 of that particular chapter, it explores land use policies generally, and there's specific policies in that section around housing options. And really, we've tried to promote that opportunity for creativity, non-traditional housing, whatever that might be. So we've allowed for that. We've presented that as opportunities under that general land use section. And again, tried to just be in the spirit of, we don't have all the answers. Let's see what the market can kind of bring forth and provide over time. That we are kind of opening that up as opportunities and seeing that as part of that vision of the future. The other section of the official plan then that responds to housing choice, I believe, is that section 3, which again is planning for an attractive city. So if you can understand those principles of urban design that I touched on the previous slide, really just understanding how what we are trying to do in structuring the official plan in such a way that we have policies embedded in there that we ensure the development community responds to ensure that we're getting a design excellence and a response in terms of urban style of development that is forward looking for sure, but keeps in mind, obviously, we don't want to alienate the human. And so if we can ensure that we have embedded in the official plan what our expectations are so that the development community can respond to that, I think if you were to also look at that section of the official plan, you'll see where we are really trying our best to ensure that the development, as the city develops and development community responds to that, that we've set the stage for a pretty attractive city of the future. I won't necessarily go through the other ones. You can see there, I'll certainly share with Tara after this. If you'd like, I'll send you a PDF of my presentation so you've got these slides to be able to refer to again. And it's just, I've tried my best to go through and kind of give you a sense of where you can look to find some of the connecting points from the official plan to, I think, the concepts, the policies that you would want to look at. But you'll see largely in there, I think sections 2 and 3 seem to be the ones that are of most interest. Section 4 in a couple of those around that transportation, that mobility, public transit, and certainly neighborhood walkability, I think would be covered in that section as well.
Great. That's yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, just I think I've got one or two more slides here to finish up, and then we'll get into some questions. Really, I thought that I'd throw in one more slide that's really maybe more specific around the housing options, and it, you know, I kind of spoke to it on the previous slide, that section 2.5.1, which is some of the general land use policies where we've explored some additional information and guidance around policy, housing options and housing choice, and really through our policies tried to encourage creativity, innovation, allowing the city to explore, various options to tackle the housing market as things are changing. We're obviously cognizant of the fact that the demographics are changing. As people age, obviously we have to be responsive to that, but also as we experience the influence of the migration of people wanting to leave the GTA and find greener pastures in Barrie, then, you know, what's that going to look and feel like, and how can we be responsive to that and try to set a framework in the new official plan to allow for consideration of a multitude of different housing choices. So really, again, this slide was just to promote that as something that we have certainly entertained in the new official plan. And we've, you know, as I described, we've kind of included as a permitted use residential uses, but we haven't necessarily prescribed what those are. We haven't dictated that they must be single detached or that they must be townhouses or whatnot. It's broadening the opportunities. And you'll see the term supportive housing. It's also a defined term in the new official plan. Really what that's trying to do is provide that range of housing that allows for people to make their choice based on their own abilities. So the path forward, just this is quickly just kind of our next steps. We've got the deadline for public comments on this particular draft of the official plan. That is December 22nd. Following that, we as staff will be hunkering down, looking at all the feedback we will have received. We will be, if necessary, meeting with people or groups that have submitted comments so we can explore those, make sure that we well understand what the comments are. Then our next statutory milestones, really, we anticipate hitting hopefully late spring of next year. What that will mean is under the Planning Act, we are obligated to provide the draft documents for review, and we would like to release those as a public open house. We have no idea if by then we'll be able to meet in person. Chances are probably not, the way things are going. So we will have to figure out how to do that in a virtual sense, replicating largely what we've been doing for neighborhood meetings and other committee meetings and whatnot. It'll have to take place somehow virtually. Then we will also be at Planning Committee for the statutory public meeting. What that means is we will have updated the draft official plan. By then we will have released it again for review and commenting, so that at the public meeting, committee members will be listening not only to a brief presentation that staff will give, but more importantly at that stage is hearing what the public thinks. So we will be receiving the public feedback once again on the updated draft of the document and looking to give consideration to that feedback, so that then we ready the document for adoption by City Council. And we're anticipating that to probably be the fall, early fall of next year. And hopefully what that means is Council will pretty much say, yes, we agree, this is the document that we would like approved. Council is not the approval authority of this document, it is the province. So we've been working alongside the province throughout the last 2 years as we've been going through this journey. We met with them back in early October to give them an overview of the document, similar to what I'm doing now. We had good conversation with them. They are going through their review right now of that first draft of the document, so that they are gathering all of the comments from all of the various ministries of the province. So, you know, we'll be getting comprehensive comments from them in about a month's time. So we'll be able to work through and see where we need to change the document or improve the document to ensure that it's in conformity with provincial policy and that the province ultimately will be able to approve it. And at the same time, we're going to be starting probably next month and throughout 2021, we will be working on the zoning bylaw, which is really the implementation tool of the new official plan. It would be terrible of us to rely upon the current zoning bylaw once we get a new official plan that kind of sets out a framework and a vision. And really it's the zoning bylaw, that's really where the rubber hits the road. So council's decisions have to line up with what the permissions are in the zoning bylaw. So it's important for us to update that as well and ensure that it will be able to implement the new official plan. So our recommendation to committees has been that we really try to provide you with some of that guidance around some of the concepts and whatnot, the sections of the official plan that you might find of most importance, and that you maybe strike your own little group to review and prepare your comments, and then try to submit us something by the December 22nd deadline. And as I mentioned, we're certainly willing to meet with you again, review those comments, and seek really from a staff perspective, seek to understand so that we can ensure that we're able as best as possible to address those in the next draft of the OP. And with that, I'll just leave it as questions willing to take. So if I can stop the sharing. I'll stop share. There, go back.
Great.
Go back.
That was quite a wonderful presentation, and I'm sure that it has given us a lot of food for thought in regards to it. You're right about the length of the plan. It is quite lengthy to try to go through, and you focused in on some good areas. I wondered if we had one or two questions that we could take before we go on to our next presenter. Is there anyone that has?
Yes, Gwen here.
Okay, go ahead, Gwen.
I'm particularly interested in the comments on Bayfield Street, as you probably know, and the Georgian Mall, because we had proposed earlier that a residential site be erected next to the mall where the former Sears building was. We felt that that was optimal for a seniors building, as everything was so close. And are they still looking for something like that?
Great question, Gwen. I think, I mean, as we know, the lands are held privately, so the city really, can't go in and impose something on a current landowner. However, we can certainly work with them to encourage as they explore redevelopment or additional development plans for the sites. Certainly, we hope that through the vision portrayed and the policy structure then in the new official plan, that would encourage that sort of development to occur, that we certainly anticipate more than just more retail on that site. It would be a missed opportunity if we don't start to see over time some additional uses, including residential or institutional or whatever additional uses might be introduced there. We think in the framework that we've outlined that certainly we're allowing for those considerations.
I do understand that it's in bankruptcy court because Sears actually owned that property. And one more question, were you aware of the big primary care living hub that wants to be built out at the line between Springwater and Barrie that would house 192 seniors plus assisted living plus a hub for teaching with Georgian College?
Yeah, I think that was one that I became aware of a few months ago, if I'm not mistaken, as I think the developer had approached the Township of Springwater Council to propose the idea of a minister's zoning order, which seems to be the flavor of the day. Everybody is jumping the queue to go through directly to the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing rather than going through the proper planning process to explore whether proposed uses are appropriate on certain sites. So I'm somewhat familiar. I had a conversation with the Director of Planning at the Township of Springwater, if we're talking about the same site. At the time I spoke with him to find out more, there had been no formal application. I asked him to keep me apprised if anything changed in that regard. So I don't believe I've received anything since. We are, as a city, we're concerned about development of that scale taking place outside of the city boundary. Those types of uses we believe should be within communities and importantly within City of Barrie if we're able to accommodate it. Not saying that Springwater shouldn't have their own types of development as well, but again, that type of development should occur within what's called a settlement area where you can then largely expect that other services are available and in proximity to the residents of a new development. So, we would suggest that wouldn't be an appropriate location for it, that it should be inside the city or inside a settlement area in Springwater.
It's 10 acres, so it might be difficult to do in the city.
Yeah, and again, there was one that was proposed on the east side of Barrie, just out off of Penetang Street by Oro Medonte. City spoke pretty loudly, I guess, to the minister saying, we don't support that. Again, it's development of a scale that really the types of things that are proposed should be within a fully serviced community such as Barrie. At least for now, the minister has suggested that he's not entertaining a minister's zoning order on that site either.
Okay, thanks. I just have one last question. Social needs of a community, when you have an official plan, like housing needs for seniors on the lower income levels or, the homeless or all of the other things that affect the operation of the city, then become layered on top of that and are decisions made by council. So as a committee, to affect change in those areas, what is your recommendation for the committee in approaching those issues to ensure that they have emphasis in an official plan?
A great question, Donna. I would suggest that certainly looking at some of the policy areas that I pointed out, you'll see some of the things in there where we are trying to ensure that there are appropriate provisions for consideration of housing needs across that entire continuum or spectrum of housing needs, everything from emergency housing right through to market-based purchases. I think really where we are looking both in the official plan, but also at a staff level, is trying to figure out where we can most directly affect things in the shorter term, because it is challenging right now. You're absolutely right. There are so many needs in the community. And, you know, the city is not in the housing business per se. I mean, we rely upon the work of the County of Simcoe from a social housing as the housing program administrator. But also we are trying through measures such as the community improvement plan to provide some financial incentives for the creation of affordable housing. And again, trying to broaden that opportunity so that the market can come forward with different proposals that the city can evaluate to see whether it lines up and is worthy of some funding assistance. But again, I would think that the committee, you guys can kind of look at that, and maybe in your written comments, you can express to us where you see there are specific needs and the importance of ensuring not only that the official plan, you know, provides the policy guidance in there, but also that, you know, council is looking at these things as well in the short term to see what we can focus on and try to have a more immediate impact than waiting 20 years for the market to respond. If there are things that can be brought forth sooner that we can kind of explore or champion, we're certainly going to try to do that. I noted on your agenda for this morning that there is the item around the rapid housing initiative that the federal government has. We are meeting later this week with representatives from the County of Simcoe to talk with them about certain sites and opportunities. We're going to work with them. We know they're going to be submitting proposals to try to get some of that funding. So certainly we're doing everything we can to support that, and those are, very, very tight timelines. I think the proposals need to be in the middle of next month. So again, we're jumping on it and trying to work with our colleagues at the county to assist them in any way we can.
That's wonderful. If any of the committee members have any other questions, maybe we could pool the questions and then forward them off to you.
Sure.
Would that be acceptable?
Certainly,
okay.
Absolutely. I'd be more than happy to respond, yes.
So if anybody does have any questions that we couldn't get answered today, could you forward them to Tara? And then we will accumulate them and send them off so that we can maybe bring you back some further feedback if that's necessary.
That would be great, Donna. Thank you.
Yeah, that was a wonderful presentation, and we appreciate you forwarding on a PowerPoint of it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to sign off. It was great to attend your committee. Take care, everybody.
Thank you again.
Yeah,
okay.
You're welcome.
Thanks,
Bye now. Bye.
Okay, so our next speaker is, I believe it's Martin. Yeah, from Georgian College. And he's going to give us a little bit of an update on the home share. And I just wanted to give you a positive response to your presentation the other day. It was wonderful on the home share.
I really appreciate that. And I mean, it's just been, every time I talk about the program, the one thing I find is that it's so positive that I just see people smile. So, I mean, but yeah, the support I've been getting is amazing. Gwen's probably tired of me hearing it say, but CARP's no, I can't say enough how wonderful CARP has been. It's been such a pleasure. Same with the city and so on. And I'll touch base on that when I go through the presentation. But thank you very much, and thank you for having me here.
Yeah. Okay, so if you could give everybody an update. I know that everybody's received your materials, so just an update on what's happening with the program and where it's moving forward.
Sure. I have a few PowerPoint slides. I'll go through it pretty quickly. And if we're running short on time, just let me know. I guess first thing is just let me know when I share my screen that you're able to see it. So I think that should be popping up now. Are you able to see the slides? Get ready to. Sorry, yes, Donna? Okay, great. So I'm just going to take us very briefly through where we were at and what happened with the COVID pivot. So with Home Share, so obviously the partnership with the city and Georgian College Center of Change Making and Social Innovation, we looked at an existing program in Toronto that basically partnered, that had been done twice, successfully. And it was a pilot project that matched post-secondary students with adults age 55 who had a spare room in their home in exchange for reduced rent. But the thing was that we were mitigating social isolation so that people would have to actually interact with each other. Students would be learning from seniors would be learning from students. We had a lot of key points which we still have in effect: vulnerable sector screening, Master of Social Work student that would be available all the time to connect and address any issues. There would be a check-in at least once a month or more often. So the whole idea of it wasn't just a program where you'd see some of the other ones where necessarily someone would just get reduced rent and close the door and be there. It was the idea of interaction. And we're still pursuing that. But because of the pivot and the social distancing, Georgian could actually not place students due to legal and safety aspects inside homes for a while. And really, we don't know when that situation might change. We're always monitoring it. But what that has done is it actually has made us move into a two-step process where we still have home share, but we also have another aspect where we have home help. And the way, so we wanted to basically not stand still and make sure that we're still being very proactive and helping everyone in the community. So the first thing that we did actually is we looked at how can we be most efficient? How can you use volunteer students to actually have a meaningful impact as opposed to just saying, this is what we're gonna do. Let's see what the needs assessment surveys will say. So I've sent out needs assessment surveys in a twofold manner. One to seniors and one also to caregivers or people who work with seniors closely. The reason I thought that was really important was that sometimes people might have a different viewpoints. So we wanted to see if those two align or if there might be different differences. And I'm gonna go through those in a little bit of detail. You're gonna see that in some, they did kind of align, except really when it came to the one I'm gonna highlight is meal prep. That was an interesting point. So let's take a look at the seniors one. And I'm just going to throw it up here, but I'll just highlight a couple points because I know it's a lot just to throw at you there. But if you looked in the memo that I sent you, that's where I kind of try to highlight a few points. So looking at the seniors aspect, snow removal was obviously very high up there. Transportation was number 2. 3 was a tie, dealing with technology and lack of social gathering. That was around 24%. And then there's a grouping of 4 that can kind of maybe smaller percentages, but still important, around 18%. Communication, lawn mowing, organizing things. So those were the key points. So those were the 4, and I'll come back to those. But I just want to give you also, and I'm also going to send the PowerPoint presentation as well to Tara, so it can be shared and you can look at this at your leisure. But it's the key highlights that I want to make sure that I recognize when we're going through it and show you the thought process that went into making sure how we deploy the student volunteers. So the next thing I just want to touch on is actually, and sorry, let me just make a look here. So this is our seniors aspect here, the seniors highlights. And then I'm going to just briefly touch on the caregivers. So caregivers also identify transportation, actually very high at 80%. The one that I'm going to come back to again, meal prep, 95% of seniors said that meal prep was not an issue, but caregivers, 70% of them said that actually it was. Snow removal showed up again. There's a lot of things that tied for number 2. So snow removal, visiting healthcare centers, organizing things, recreational activities. Number 3, we had lawn mowing and gardening kind of falls in there as well, 60-50%. On the 4th, there was a lot of tie between home care, dog walking, communicating, talking on the phone at 30%. So again, those are the highlights. I know it's a lot to throw up there, and so I will share the PowerPoint again through Tara. But the main part is, where did this lead us to in terms of the where we could actually be efficient so that the students could provide the most value in terms of interacting with students and still having that social mitigation aspect. So the reasoning process is this too. So snow clearing, we do have snow angels in Barrie. Now, when I said in my report, that was one of the things we're going to focus on. We also looked at, well, realistically, if there is still an overabundance of snow clearing requests, and that is something still the students could do. So we didn't want to, so now actually I would not still not want to rule that out. But the three areas where we really want to focus on and where students could have an impact would be technology and communication, virtual social and recreational events, small outdoor tasks, just gardening, lawn mowing, and dog walking. And the virtual social and recreational events, there's a lot of opportunities, I think, also through the 55 plus centers. There's so many different things we had. Even I was doing very recently a recruiting section with students, and they were actually very excited about this aspect as well, specifically. Everything from the ideas were being thrown around, but it's something, again, we'd look at from exercise sessions to whatever you want to do. And it could also be from the flip side as well. If a senior wants to lead a certain sessions, there's just amazing things that could be done. I just want to touch back again on the things that that came up high in the survey, but we couldn't, but would not necessarily be something we could do with student volunteers very effectively. So again, snow clearing, yes, possibly so. Transportation, I just want to make sure, because it came up very high, but we have to look at the logic of it too. We have young drivers, high insurance rates. So it's not something that particularly the student volunteers would be ideal at addressing. So we recognize that. The meal plan, I noted that because of it's not a statistically significant survey in terms of we want to hit the ground running. So I'm still doing more surveys. We can still do more, and we're getting more significant as we expand, but we want to make sure what's coming through this. So I also want to make sure that we're hearing what the caregivers are saying very loud and clear, and that maybe meal prep is something that either wasn't showing up. Maybe the seniors particularly surveyed weren't the ones that had issues with meal prep, or perhaps the caregivers are seeing it differently. It's something that I definitely want to follow up on with more questions and so on. But it's also something that our students could potentially address, because we have students who do nutrition. We could easily do meal preps events as well. So that would be something that could be added in. So really you're looking at, I've got 3 up there, but really snow clearing and meal prep could be 4 and 5 as well. The other thing I wanted to mention before I forget, I mean, it's such a pleasure for me to be part of this program, and I really do mean it. When I talk about this program, everyone smiles, even, you know, when you're talking to a reporter or a person in the street. It's just such a positive wave, and I'm just so grateful of that aspect. And I also want to recognize that what we did is, I'm very proud of the fact that there were things, for instance, where we've got an app now where, and I'm going to show the contact information that Dan has shared as well, where students in Syria can sign up for the home help aspect. And we're already seeing people actually reach out to us after some of the publicity and the initial presentations. But what's very great to me is that the app was originally something that Georgian students had worked on 2 years ago, looking towards a food alleviation project, and it didn't quite get there at the time. But basically, because of this pivot, we were able to basically use the work that social service worker program students did at Georgian, and their interactive meeting web design program students did, gave them suggestions how we could change it a little bit and make it useful for this aspect. So that was important as well in that sense. The launch date, and I'm going to talk about the app just a little bit more in a second. The launch date where we're fully ready to go in terms of where we can actually deploy volunteers to students, that's a really key date, is January 18th, 2021. Because right now what we're doing is we're in the process of, we're still doing the Barrie home share and the aspect of we're still screening for people who would want to have students in their homes following that program. But once COVID actually has, at least I'm going to say, lessened, or it's safe, or whatever we're at, or if it's post-COVID. So it gives us actually more time to have even better matches. The website that we use has 162, I think, questionnaire now, where it's very thorough matches, because I get that question a lot too. Whenever I have any meetings in 55 plus centers or with seniors, how do you know it's going to be a good match? Well, we've got the questionnaire. We ask, literally, you'd be amazed at the questions we ask. I mean, everything from, you know, do you allow drinking in the home? You can say yes or no. Do you have preferences for people staying over? And then it's on both ends. So it's really having that very, very good match. The Masters of Social Work student is really key in terms of having a contact once a month and for that program. So that's the original, the Barrie home share. the home help that we're looking at. So the idea is that you're signing up on the web app. So the barryhomeshare.org/register that you're seeing on your screens, hopefully. Both seniors and students can reach out to that app. I'm also obviously reachable for any questions or anything else through my contact information. But what I always say during my presentations, I want to stress too that if you think you're interested in the program could benefit you, or you know someone who it could, please get them to sign up on the barryhomeshare.org register as soon as possible, because then we can actually talk to them about the specific needs. They can ask questions. The sooner we do it, the better. So that's really a key aspect as well. I know I went kind of fast because I know the committee's time is precious as well. So I can backtrack on the PowerPoint to a few points as well. But I also want to make sure, because I find anytime I do any presentations about this program, to me, the most valuable part is the Q&A as well, so that you can ask me anything that might be pertinent.
Just a quick question. How do seniors that don't have computers find out about your program?
So that's actually something we looked at from the beginning. Actually, even Barry Homeshare, we do phone calls. There's no question about it's a little bit more time consuming in terms of the resources, but that's something we looked at automatically. So with this, for instance, even from the Barry Homeshare, when I originally did the project, so it was easier before COVID because I was going to 55+ centers and people would sign up, they'd be there in person, we'd reach out by phone. Now you're finding that whether it's caregivers or other contacts, or people basically, a lot of times I'll get a phone call directly to me, and then I'll basically follow up with the person and see if we can talk to them. So yes, that is an amazing point, because in a way we are really trying to drive everybody to the app in terms of I guess the quickness of the process, but we're very aware that we're always going to follow up on the telephone system. And also that's something actually came up through the survey. So part of the student volunteer aspect when we launch in January would be having students specifically allocated to having those phone contacts and making sure that no one, for lack of a better term, falls behind in terms of what we're doing. But yeah, that's why I love Q&A, because those are exactly the key points. Thank you, Donna.
Does anybody else have a question?
Yes, Donna, it's Anne-Marie.
Anne-Marie?
Thank you, and thank you for the presentation, Martin. So I'm just making notes as we're having this dialogue. Love to promote this, and I've got a Word newsletter I'm timing to get out soon with information about Snow Angel, so I'll include this. I've just brought up the Barry Homeshare website. I'm happy to make an announcement at council tonight, or if there's any additional information you'd like, I'll ask council in general to incorporate this into any messaging that we have. I did want to just clarify, my apologies if I missed the information through the presentation, is considering just transportation access for some of our students as well. Is there a certain geographic area from Georgian College that this is going to be limited to, or are you going to feel a little bit of a different ability on being able to respond to seniors in other areas, you know, outside of kind of the boundaries of Georgian College?
That's another great question. So it's a two-parter. So because originally, so I have to address it back to when we were doing the matches, we're obviously looking at an area where a student could, and I put in kind of in quotes, reasonably commute to Georgian if they were in a home. And that depended on if the student might have a car or not, et cetera. So that's one part. With this aspect, and this is the one I want to focus because we're really driving this one forward now during COVID, with the app, the whole area is actually Barry. With the app, like the app is still actually getting improved as we go, but the main idea of it too is that we're actually, it'll be privacy protected, but we're going to actually see the distances from seniors' homes to students. So we want to actually cover literally all of Barry. So it wouldn't be any limitation to that. The only limitation, I guess, would be obviously maybe sometimes how quickly we could respond to a need based on the distance and so on.
Follow-up question, Madam Chair. And Martin, sorry to put you on the spot with this, but my other thought comes to mind about, can you remind me if you have this knowledge at hand about bus passes for students at Georgian College? Is that subsidized? I'm wondering about if there's any type of a process to be mindful of around supporting access to affordable transit for students who sign up to this is maybe an incentive, but also to reduce any barriers that students may face. But I might be, I might not have the best information at hand personally about what that current cost is or if it has been covered. So would students have still be paying for public transit for buses at this time, or would there be a subsidy if they're with the program if they are paying for transit?
And I don't want to interrupt too, but I just want to say that on our program, automatically part of it is that we would address the mileage. So from the program, from the Georgian side, we would make sure whatever it was that there was no expense to the student in that aspect. So sorry, I didn't want to jump onto someone else answering as well, but just from that clarity.
So to further clarify, so mileage, so if it was a student though that didn't have access to a vehicle, sorry, is there a bus pass that they already have access to that comes at no cost, or would they still be paying a transit fee that might be at a student rate?
And sorry, Councillor, you're asking me directly. I just want to make sure I'm not jumping in. And
yeah, that's correct. She's talking directly to you.
Okay, sorry about that.
That's okay.
So we actually automatically would cover any cost, whether it's bus pass or so, be coming out of the program. In terms of, so the way I guess I would answer is in terms of there's any other coverage, regardless of what it is that subsidizes it, we would still cover anything that wasn't covered. So that's something, so I guess the way I would say it is that there would be zero expense to our students other than the time they're putting in on the volunteer aspect for transportation or anything else, if there are any additional expenses, because we're going to do the training. Obviously, there's going to be also PPE equipment as well that we would cover. So yeah, so I want to make sure that's clear as well. Same thing for instance, I mean, obviously, I don't foresee other than if there was anything where we would need maybe protective equipment if it came up as an issue, but if it ever came up on the senior side, we would cover that as well. So this is the whole idea of the program, is that there would not be a direct expense to either or any party.
That's great, thank you, and that does clarify for me. Thank you about noting the zero expense. And I guess then a general comment to the committee and perhaps Donna and Tara for consideration. I could see the statistics that you're providing, Martin, would be maybe of value for other conversations happening with some of our shift governance initiative and some stuff in the mayor's office that might value this around some of the work happening around access to programs, transportation, and access to meals. I'm not sure if there's data behind this, so I guess I'm redirecting to Martin, but around those seniors that participated in this, it would be interesting to know if they know also if there is an outreach or looping back to them around 211 and access to services that might actually help them to navigate in the interim to programs that the city has also been supporting around then access to meals and meal delivery. So a comment, but hoping there's some type of, not just a receival of information, but if we know where these individuals are and are connected to them, is there some outreach to 211 or some other options?
If I
I'm not
may
sure,
jump
Lauren,
in,
if you've got that.
yeah, if I may jump in. So our office has been working through the Shift Government project closely with Georgian College on the initiative. We actually did bring home share to Georgian College to move the initiative forward. So we have indeed created a 211 entry so that people will know about this happening in our community, so that we can also leverage that opportunity to share this information there.
Great, thanks, Lauren.
Great, again, another great presentation. And
Donna, could I just ask a question before we move on?
Sure, go right ahead.
Martin, thank you. So Martin, what kind of, you said that there's a screening process. Are you taking in consideration matches around cultural, language, religion, or diversity around LGBTQ2S?
We do actually, in anything that even isn't. So actually, it's a lengthy answer too, but, and this is more for when we're talking about the screenings, talking about the first aspect actually in the home. For that, actually, if you look at the questions on the report that I sent, it actually goes into details as well and leaves room for other aspects as well. There's also discussion with the social worker as well in terms of addressing those issues, seeing that you're comfortable with the views being shared, etc. If you actually want to see the questionnaire is online. You can actually even see it through barryhomeshare.com instead of .org. And then you can actually even fill them out yourself. People are usually surprised by how in-depth it is. So the quicker answer to what you've asked me is, yes, it definitely comes under consideration. We're always welcome additional feedback, but it also comes up with the social worker. So for instance, if you said, and I'll be surprised, I mean, it could happen. If you said, perhaps I'm going through this and there's still a couple questions that I feel that are lacking for a perfect match, then the social worker would address that, because the students and the social worker initially was in person. Obviously now they would also have a virtual meeting as well before any move-in took place to make sure that it's matching.
Thank you.
Okay, one last question. Is there anybody that, Gwen?
This is a general comment from our CARP head office annual meeting. We don't like to use the word seniors anymore because there is a very real ageism out there. So we like to refer to people as older adults. This is just a comment for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Gwen. I appreciate that. And it's something that we were looking at too. That's why I was using the 55 plus sometimes and so on. So we will incorporate that.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Gwen. Well, thank you again. And Martin, I see your email and you're going to forward your presentation to us, are you?
I will. And I just want to thank everyone for their time. Yeah. Lauren, thank you for also answering that question in detail. And it's been really great working with the city. So I very much appreciate that. Again, my thanks to CARP again, Gwen.
Oh, you're welcome.
It's always good. And then same thing too, the very last thing I want to say too is, so for instance, any other question you have, whatever it might be, I always say this in my presentations, don't hesitate, send it to me, because then it could drive the value of the program. Maybe there's something you're looking at from a interesting perspective that we need to also look at. So I appreciate it very much. Thank you for having me here.
Thank you again for attending. Thank you. Okay. Okay, our next topic on our agenda is rapid housing initiative. So if Councillor Klug can speak to the what is Barry participating in this initiative. I think the lady Kathy Shugit mentioned that they were in some degree.
Yes, thanks. And I'll just hold for a second. Did we miss the seniors need assessment survey, or is that is Martin then? Okay. The rapid housing initiative. Sorry, Don, I was reading that as a separate piece. Yeah, I actually emailed Kathy to get a bit more of an update about the meeting that she referenced having this week. So I can speak to a couple of different pieces that might be of interest tied to housing and initiatives and those that have been public facing through County of Simcoe and different funds that have moved forward. I'm not sure if that's what you're looking for or what the interest was there, but I'm looking at oh, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. No, the grant itself has two components. The first component, the city would participate in the second component, which would give it money for different housing options. So we were wondering if that housing option impacted seniors in our community in any way.
And I think Kathy might be I don't think I can speak to that specifically. So I have actually emailed Kathy to see if there was an update that could come back to this group after her meeting this week.
So should we defer this to the next meeting then, maybe? For an update?
I'm thinking so. Or I'm looking at if she can provide something this week, maybe we can send it to members by email and see if it triggers any questions.
Okay. That's fair.
Share that.
Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, it's okay. There are other housing initiatives that have been in the media and that have been identified specific to Barrie. So maybe around that time we can have a broader conversation. So some of you may be aware that Barrie City Council motioned recently to invite members of County of Simcoe staff to give us a presentation about housing opportunities in Barrie. So knowing that we've got several different kind of funding envelopes, some that are coming federally, some that are coming provincially, that some interim options are actually have already been shared, like those at Georgian Green around transitional housing for a period of time. But that in some of the documentation through County of Simcoe, we have identified a couple of pieces that do touch Barrie. So those are with respects to identifying Lucy's Place as an ideal model, and motel conversions being a conversation we want to continue to have around those opportunities, but as well as we've specifically identified as a council not to look at the sale or the acquisition of property until we have a better idea of opportunities with the County of Simcoe for development in the city. So that should be in the process of being booked and might be advantageous to look at this more broadly, with then the lens around access to housing for older adults and different incentivized programs. Not sure if that's helpful, Donna.
Yeah, Tara, we had talked about having Simcoe County come in January. Did we cement that decision to see if we could get them in January to come to our meeting, give us an update on specifically housing?
No, we haven't been able to get a hold yet. I believe is that Cheryl and I were talking about that earlier.
Okay, so we were going to have Simcoe County try to come and give us an update in January, so maybe we could tie that into discussions with them when they come in January. Does that sound feasible?
I think
Anne-Marie?
My understanding is that we actually have to get we actually have to talk to the clerk. Wendy Cook has some concerns about that request. So until we have direction from the clerk, okay, no invitation will be made to Simcoe County staff. So Simcoe County staff is presenting to council and they are having active conversations with our planning department and our city council. So we can expect feedback based on those conversations through Councillor Kungle and or other presentations. But at this time, my understanding is that we're to let those conversations happen before we're to invite someone to this committee to make a presentation.
Okay, so appreciate that.
Please stay tuned, I guess, because we're both Tara and myself are just, we're waiting to be advised.
Okay, that's fair comment. Okay, so we'll when that does come possible, you can let us know. And because they presented to us January last year, Anne-Marie, so I thought it would be good if they came back and gave us another update on any other further changes. So I think we'll wait, and then if you do hear of anything, I'm sure you would feed us back on the committee. Okay.
And Donna, if I may, when it comes back, it might tie into this, but I would then invite any member of the advisory committee to send me any questions that you have, and I can see if I can build them in where appropriate within the lens of the stakeholders that we care about around housing, and can ask a bit about if they're able to bring data forward or supplement any presentation that they provide to council around vulnerable populations. And I think about that in a couple of lenses. So one is where we're seeing older adults and seniors. So within that terminology, sometimes I'm seeing data that actually is descriptive, tied to age, or it's just referred to as adult. So I am interested in seeing how they can provide that. I also wanted to note that I have been in touch with SCADA, Simcoe County Alliance to End Homelessness, that through the County of Simcoe, if you're not aware, the homelessness enumeration is actually happening. I think it finishes today, the 23rd. They've taken a different approach due to the pandemic. The last homelessness enumeration happened in 2018. If you haven't seen that summary, I can provide it to Tara and see if she can circulate it. But my other lens was asking a bit about, as they have that information, are we seeing any older adults over the age of 65 that are identified specific to Barrie through that enumeration that might be homeless or underhoused, and to also have that picture.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much.
Welcome.
Anybody got any more comments on that? in regards to
I guess my
housing?
only other comment would be, because I sit on the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee tied to County of Simcoe, if you're not aware of some of the conversations, I don't want to inundate you with documents, but I can summarize some links to public facing information that does detail where different funding envelopes have been identified, like the 3.4 million we've just seen through October, November through the province and other initiatives. So it might give you some background context that could be helpful about conversations about developments both in Barrie but in the broader Simcoe County area.
I would be interested. That would be great if you could send us that information links, and then we can look at them.
Okay, I'll put that together for Tara.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's one of the things that the committee has found difficult, that without statistics or information that validates numbers, it's hard to make decisions. So that would be helpful, very helpful. Okay. So Cheryl and Jessica, you were going to give us an update on the Inclusive Communities Grant.
No, we're not giving you an update. No. We are advising you that we're going to apply for the grant. So Jessica and I are working together to apply for the grant. And so we need your support to do so. So the Inclusive Communities Grant is specifically being provided to communities in Ontario, including municipalities and public organizations that are providing initiatives that help support individuals who have disabilities and or older adults. It could be through programming and it could be through other means. However, their priority is for communities or organizations who are looking to advance age-friendly priorities and innovative options to connect older adults and or people with disabilities who might be isolated using technology, especially in response to COVID-19. And so one of the things that Jessica and myself have been doing over this pandemic time is, well, Jessica's been very, very busy with the Seniors Without Walls, which ties in greatly to the whole idea of innovatively helping seniors through, or older adults through, issues with isolation due to COVID. And in addition to that, we've had to regroup. We want to advance our age-friendly planning process, but it's really, really hard to do so when a significant component of that is community engagement. And so we've tacked on a small 1 hour a week to look at age-friendly planning in the Seniors Without Walls. So what we want to do is we recognize that it's in our best interest as a community to advance the Seniors Without Walls program to look at a variety of different things to address isolated individuals. And in doing that, together in doing that, we will also look to advance our age-friendly community planning. So Jessica, do you want to jump in?
No, I think you've got it covered. Really looking to partner with the communities and not duplicate services that already exist. So knowing that Cyber Seniors is out there and providing programming, Barrie Public Library provides programming, Senior Centers Without Walls. So really looking at where can we continue to support and leverage through the Senior Centers Without Walls, and then looking at age-friendly and where we're going to continue to advance as a city of Barrie. So yeah, it's a great collaborative effort between Cheryl and myself, and hopefully we'll have our plan together to put it into place.
Wonderful. Okay. Now, Cheryl, you mentioned about the Seniors Advisory Committee supporting you. So Tara, help me with this, because I know there's an issue about us issuing letters. So like when you say support, are you looking for some form of a written support, or are you looking for a verbal support in our minutes?
So
A motion?
so we're looking for both. So but the issue with letters is that you have to meet in order before you can do that, right? And so this is a meeting, so this counts.
Okay.
But what we really want is we want a motion that endorses this to council so that council can see that you guys agree with this. Because if we are successful, we're going to want council support in spending this money, right? So
Right.
it's just like that whole process. But also Jessica and myself are drafting letters of support for both the Seniors Advisory Committee as well as the Accessibility Advisory Committee. And if you guys agree, then we'll send you that letter, and you can just affix your name onto that letter if you agree, make changes to it, etc. But we need to have this discussion in person, virtually in person, in order to facilitate that. Yeah.
Okay. So Tara, we can vote on that as committee and get everybody's agreement to go forward with that.
Yeah, we do. I do believe we've drafted a motion, and then as well, if everybody can just agree that you're supporting sending correspondence, that would be
okay.
Different.
So if there's anybody that does not agree with this motion, can you let us know and comment? Otherwise, can everybody sort of just raise their hands and let us know that they agree to the motion?
We can read it out for you.
Okay, please. That would be good.
Cheryl, do you want to do that, or you want me to?
Yeah, I can. I just gotta pull it up. So the wording is that the Seniors Advisory Committee supports the application for funding through the Inclusive Community Grant administered by the Ministry for Seniors and Accessibility in order to support advancements to the City of Barrie's age-friendly community planning efforts and the Seniors Without Walls program. That should the funding through the Inclusive Community Grant be successful, City staff will report back to the Seniors Advisory Committee on the progress of City of Barrie's age-friendly community planning efforts and the Seniors Without Walls program.
Okay. Any comments? Everybody in agreement?
Yay.
Everybody in agreement?
Yay.
Yeah, okay.
So this is, just so you know, like, we don't know how much money we'll get, but the province is making available up to $60,000. So we may not get $60,000, but even if we got half that or even a little less, like, that would be amazing because as you know, it costs money to advance certain initiatives, and in a COVID year, I think our budgets for any kind of social initiatives are going to be tight, and understandably so, right? So I think if it wasn't COVID, maybe Jessica and I would come to you and with your support to ask council for funds, but I just don't think that would be smart in this kind of day and age, because I think we're really trying to be innovative with our programming, innovative with our budgeting, and it's really quite awesome that the province is making it possible for municipalities such as ourselves to carry on without having to potentially ask for extra funds to do so. So
that's great. Yeah. Well, we wish you well, and we'll hope that you get what you applied for. So thanks for thanks for the work to do that too. That's important. You know, it takes your time as well. So that's great. Okay. So Councillor Klug, the Barrie Health Accord, I know Barrie's participating in this, and maybe just a quick overview of how it's going to benefit seniors in the community.
Yes, thank you. So it's pretty global in approach, and maybe I'll give some context. Has everyone seen or heard about the Barrie Health Accord, or should I start from the origins? No. So Joan, I'm seeing. Okay. So for those that are able, I have linked a media clipping in the chat. Maybe I'll ask Tara if she can send that to the group with some background. One, it might help for minutes, but also it'll note some of the partnerships. So through the I think the approach Mayor Lehman and the team have taken, they put forward a health accord, Barrie Health Accord approach, and the this has been signed off recently and was highlighted in the media. There's a nice photo of partners there, but really does involve, when we talk about those kind of 5 partnerships, RVH, County of Simcoe, the Health Unit Board, the Barrie Police, and then City of Barrie Council. And so through this, the early fall, all 5 counterparts or partners went through formal motions to sign into this. And maybe I'll talk about it as a concept. It identifies that, especially with the pandemic, this is an opportunity for both government and health leaders to come together and look at partnership opportunities, synergies, approaches by which we can collectively support wellness of our residents. So there are not yet metrics identified. The intent is at least to start with that committed approach into a health accord, and that will then look at what are we already doing within our respective work. Some would say some of our community well-being plans already highlight initiatives and intentions underway, but it allows us to come together to then look at social determinants of health. And I can provide some resources if that's not familiar to all members of the group, but aspects tied to poverty, education, built environment, and those aspects. So it really does look at purposefully, intentionally bringing these members together to look at opportunities to really focus on root causes and look at supporting wellness. So that's pretty general, generic. And my understanding is the intention then is in time and maybe more formally post-pandemic when we've got our resources and can more aptly have conversations around what are we doing and can do in years out that where we can work together to support wellness. So I would say, I would look at this as an opportune time to then reach out to those partners or through me or through staff to say, are there metrics that we care about, that we think about related to wellness and aging well, that we might want to ask, how does this fit into the Barrie Health Accord? And are these some things that are being looked at? Do we as a collective Seniors Advisory Council want to make any statements or identify that, we think, if I'm not out of step here, if we think there are some nuances around wellness and aging well that, we hope is being looked at. But again, at this time, there might be a future presentation as that develops into metrics, but unless staff know otherwise, I'm not aware that we've been able to take a next step. The first step was the signed Health Accord. The next step will then be when we've got capacity to then look at what are some of the metrics we want to start tracking or looking at.
That's an excellent point, and I think as a committee that's something we need to put some thought to in regards to what is important in ensuring that if we have a community that is growing in the seniors population numbers, and over the years it's going to increase, how can we benefit the community through initiatives that will ensure a healthier environment, not only for the individual, but for the community itself, because healthier individuals tax the health system less. They provide better, they work better in the community, and they integrate better without having to worry about growing health facilities in the community. So healthy aging is really a significant thing. Do any of the committee members have any comments in regards to that? I would agree that we would want to ensure that if the objectives of the Barrie Health Accord are to look at the health within the community, that aging seniors is a significant thing, because as seniors age, they tend to be the ones that are always said to put the most emphasis on our health system itself. So if we want to preserve our health system, ensuring that seniors can age effectively in the community is probably important. Gwen, you had a comment?
Oh, Gwen, if you can hear me, I think you're on mute.
Sorry. I was wondering if they could look at the rec centers and see if there's a possibility of a much reduced rate for seniors, because I know a lot of seniors can't afford it. Maybe something they could look at.
Hi, Gwen. I can speak to that. The senior centers, like the memberships to the senior centers themselves, are at a reduced rate. And there's also a program called Rec Access that anyone in the community can apply for. The Rec Access does provide them with financial support for recreation memberships and could cover up to 100% of it if they're within the qualifying bracket on that. The information can be found on the City of Barrie website under Recreation, and it's a tab down the side. It says Rec Access. So there are some financial opportunities, and again, Rec Access is available to from diapers to Depends, as we like to talk about, but it's available to anybody in the community. And again, it even breaks down, I believe on the right-hand side, it'll break it down for you in regards to how much based on income and how many people are living within your household.
Thank you, Jessica.
Anytime.
I would think that we would want to look at factors that the Health Accord can maybe develop information around. What are the key health initiatives or the key health factors that the Accord can look at to ensure that seniors are aging well, and that what factors can minimize any aging health-related concerns that seniors may have in the community due to lack of resources, lack of doctors, lack of health facilities, whether it's physiotherapy, or what can this Health Accord do to minimize the impact to the health services by encouraging and developing better health within our aging community. So I'm not sure how to put that into something that would be the Accord could look at, but without getting specific, I think what's more important is what are the factors that are going to help people that age in this community stay healthy and not impact our health facilities to the point that we can't service them, especially in times like COVID, where, COVID taxes the health system. So if you have seniors taxing your health system as well. So something as simple as my own experience recently is there is a line that you can call to get a house call from a doctor when you need it, okay? And unfortunately, due to the COVID, that service, there was problems with getting doctors in order to do house calls. And I'm just thinking that something as simple as that prevents a senior from having to go to the hospital. What else can we do within the system to minimize the impact on the system, health related? So I'm not sure how to phrase that effectively. Go ahead, Anne-Marie.
So a couple things come to mind, Donna, and great points. Because I think we'll have more questions that might get answered if we direct them to the Health Accord group at this time, based on where they're at and focus. But, and I'm looking at just different correspondence happening through email and behind the scenes. So the Patrick Fang presented to City Council a while ago, and Patrick provided some data that I believe is being shared, or at least is known to the majority of members on the Health Accord. And he presented on a community snapshot. I'm in conversation with Patrick. I'm wondering if that would be a good presentation. So Patrick kind of represents relationships between, I believe, if I'm not incorrect, the Barrie Family Health Team, the Health Unit, and City of Barrie. And it's called the Healthy Barrie Project. So it's separate and apart from the Health Accord, kind of as an intentional group of decision makers and those that might have influence on, budgets around how they're directed. But the Healthy Barrie Project is what I'm seeing to be where we're seeing data and information. And perhaps it could be, I could connect with Patrick and ask if some of the questions that we have could be looked at through the lens of the data that he's collecting on different information around demographics across the city of Barrie, and see if he can break that down into giving us maybe a presentation or maybe some information tied to older adults and any type of social determinants that might relate to that age demographic. That could be an option. Hi, Cheryl. I see you've got your hand.
I just want to comment on that, Councillor, because Patrick Fang actually has communicated to this committee in the past on some of his research, and one of the researchers working with Patrick was going to be presenting to this committee. We were in discussions. I don't know if Donna, if you recall, I had emailed you in the summer some of the things that they were looking for, asking about seniors in the community generally, seniors with transportation, seniors connected to the specialized geriatric services, et cetera. And I had asked in August that they consider coming and presenting it to this committee. And then that kind of stalled out. And I actually reached out to Patrick just maybe last week. And I said, hey, Patrick, what's happening with this project? Like, has everything stalled? Because I hadn't seen the information to council. I hadn't seen anything in the media. So I think that's an amazing idea. And I think it's a really good fit, kind of aligning to kind of align the work of the Health Accord, that understanding with the work of the Healthy Barrie Project, because I think this committee would really appreciate being able to comment. Yeah.
So just a question, Anne Marie, is there a time frame that's significant in sending questions of that to the Health Accord, or
so I would say perhaps to Patrick through the Healthy Barrie Project. It might help us then, because I believe that would be data information readily available to the majority of the Health Accord participants at the higher level. And Patrick and I, so on that, Cheryl, he indicated that they've got a working group that meets every few weeks. So I can get back information at any time. And what I might do, if beneficial, I can connect with you offline, Cheryl, and share some follow-up that I had with him after the presentation in October to council. Maybe, if appropriate, we could pull that presentation and share it to the group. And then maybe before our next meeting, we could identify, or members of this group, if felt to be appropriate, Donna, could ask questions, because I am being asked what features would be valuable, what issues would you prioritize if you're using this community snapshot tool, and is there a particular project we would like to know more about? So he did talk about several other initiatives. I do have some follow-up, but would be happy to build in a lens around seniors in advance. You know, for instance, when we talk about walkable connected communities and transit and transportation, you know, one piece that often comes up is also identification of food deserts, which is really just, you know, where are we not seeing access to a grocery store or affordable food within certain neighborhoods or within certain number of kilometers. And so there could be things that members of this group maybe want to compile questions, and we can send them to Patrick in advance and then ask about maybe an appropriate time to bring back something that's a bit more specific. So we're getting information with an understanding of what he's had time to work with that his working group on, rather than maybe a pull to the group at this time, which would probably be a repeat, but maybe we can influence or give them time to consider how data or information could be refined.
So Cheryl, what I'm looking, if the committee wants to submit questions, they will need some background information on the Healthy Barrie Project. And maybe you could
actually,
send, oh, sorry.
sorry. I actually think, like, I like your idea, Councillor Kungle, but I think really, truly, like, the committee needs a presentation first to understand everything before they can even know what questions they want to ask. So I think that's where we need to start. So whether or not Patrick or his student are able to do that, I don't know, but I think that would be appropriate first before we go to try to extrapolate more specific kinds of questions.
The Healthy Berry project, is that a project that has public information posted anywhere, or information that's available to the public? Or is it?
I would personally say, prior to coming onto council, I think I saw something in the media a while back, and not a lot since that I found easy to access, but so I would say, why don't I work offline if that's appropriate with Cheryl and Tara, and about who is best to reach out to Patrick. I'm happy to do that. But if there's already a connection, then I'm happy then just to support that. And maybe if there is an ask to Patrick to come and give background context and a presentation, maybe we're just really clear about the interest of this group, and for him to not bring the same presentation, but to see if there's any refinement he can bring with the data available around seniors.
Right, and I'm always one that thinks that before we come to a meeting, in order to be prepared for a meeting, to be able to ask questions, it's always good to have background information as well. So if there is some place where the committee can look at background information that's available to them, I think that's advisable, because when you go into a meeting, you want to be prepared. Tara, you had something to say?
I can pull the presentation from before.
Okay.
And find out other information, send links and stuff, just so everybody has the background. And then you can start from there if you like. And
yeah, that would be great.
Perfect. Thanks, Tara.
So other people on the committee, how are you feeling about having this gentleman come and present again with giving us some updates from the last time? Is everybody okay with that? Would we put him on our next meeting agenda then, Tara, or what?
We can try to see how some of the other scheduling and whatnot. I think we're running out of time right now as well, so.
Okay, all right, oops, dear. So we have our age-friendly and our goals. Do we want to defer those to the next meeting?
Cheryl, did you want to just give like a quick?
Yeah, let's do like a quick, like the age-friendly, it's going to be on the circulation list for council. This is a draft what you received, so it's going to be changed because my supervisor and Michael Prouse, the CAO, have indicated that it needs to be a staff report, not a memo, and currently it's in a memo. But the substance of the document, so page 2 to page 39, is basically what has been achieved. That will end up being an appendix to the staff report, which will basically be a motion to council indicating that work substantially has been completed on the current age-friendly plan, and that we as a community need to go forward with additional community engagement in order to do another age-friendly community plan. And the thing that I'm going to recommend in that staff report is that the Seniors Advisory Committee and staff support a much smaller list of age-friendly goals and strategies. So the current plan, like we had 75 strategies, like individual strategies. We had 22 goals, 75 strategies, which was a lot. Like we did a tremendous amount of work on it. But I think if we could dedicate ourselves to a smaller list of projects, then that would be very helpful. And also it would allow the Seniors Advisory Committee potentially to target some of the goals that you guys want to work on yourselves in a much more meaningful way. But we have to start with engagement. That's the first process. So that's basically what is gonna happen. I don't need an endorsement from you necessarily, but I do need you guys to be aware of what we're doing. Yes, Donna.
I have a question. When I went through it, I noticed that there were a number, without getting into it, a number of issues that were not looked at or ongoing that were specific to seniors. So my only concern was those issues that weren't accomplished or that do refer to seniors that still need to be looked at. Will they be brought forward? What will happen to them?
Potentially. So some of those items we need to look at, and whether to look at, and you as a Seniors Advisory Committee would be part of this review. We need to look at them for their utility, because there was a few of them that when staff looked at them and or the previous Seniors Advisory Committee looked at them, it was determined that they weren't really appropriate to be considered either on the action plan, either because they were already being done by other community organizations, community stakeholders, or the municipal role in those activities was not there. So for example, there were some issues related to seniors' health that were just not looked at. They weren't supported by the municipality for municipal work. And our community stakeholders, while our community stakeholders were actively working on those items, they also underwent complete organizational changes, because we went from a liberal provincial government to a conservative provincial government that had huge impacts to the way our health system is structured organizationally. So some of those things just naturally, like, they just kind of went defunct. Yeah.
So could I just suggest, instead of saying this item has not been reported on, or, this item has not been followed up, maybe something to the effect of what you're just saying, this item has been discussed by such and such a group and no further action will be taken.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Something like that.
That's perfect. Yeah, that's perfect. Thank you so much for that suggestion.
So I think that would help.
Yeah. So we do need, there's a few of those that are just very, very obvious. And then there's a few that we just did not get to from a timing perspective, but absolutely. Okay. Like, it's a draft. What you have is a draft. So I can certainly make sure I work with you, Donna, and others if they're interested to make those changes. Yeah.
I can send you a list of the ones that I pulled off, and then just my suggestions around, maybe wording differently, whether
perfect
or something. And that would help me, and I think help the other committee members too. So, and then I think all you would have to do is just feedback that information to the committee, so we know that those items are, we don't have to worry about discussing those items.
Yes,
okay?
Absolutely.
Perfect. Okay, so our goals, I think, for next year, we need a significant discussion on where we go with that. And this has been a meeting full with information, and I appreciate everybody's time. So I'm going to defer the goals to the next meeting, because I think we still need to do some background information before we can set a concrete goal of what we want to do, because there's so many issues going on. So if it's okay with the committee, I'm going to defer that until we're prepared to actually strike a goal that we all agree on based on the information that we're hearing. Is everybody okay with that? When?
We were supposed to get back to the official plan by December 22nd. Are we doing that?
We need to, well, that was going to be my question about meeting, because Terry, you can help me with this. If I look at our calendar, I was looking at the calendar, I'd like to see if there's some way we could meet before to give us enough time to send off some information. And the only way we can do that is if we met on the 14th and not the 21st. If we met on the 14th, then we could put our feedback for the planning department together and agree on it as a committee. If you want to send it as a committee, I've already gone in and done, you can individually go in and go through the plan yourself and put your own feedback in, which I've already done. But as a committee, if we want to agree on things that we want to send to them for them to look at, I think we need to do that as a group and agree on it. So Tara, would it be feasible to have a meeting on the 14th if people could attend?
If I can get a quorum, that's fine, and maybe only have the one item.
Yeah, that might be a good idea. And then we could draft up something to send to them so that we can assure that we get our views looked at. And in the meantime, if anybody can't attend the meeting for the 14th, if they could be asked to feedback to Tara any questions they would want to ask planning or to be included in that, then we can make sure that their questions or suggestions are included. Is that okay with everybody?
Yes.
So the 14th sounds like an okay date for everybody then? Okay, yes. Tara, let's go with the 14th.
Okay.
And we'll just have the one agenda item. Yep. And if when you send that out, could you let people know if you can't attend the meeting? Mm-hmm. And if you have any suggestion or comments, feed them back to you so we can include them in the discussion.
Of course.
Is everybody okay? Great. That was a phenomenal meeting. I just thought we really got some great information and feedback. Thank you, everybody, for attending. And we'll look forward to seeing you on the 14th of December.
Yes, thank you. And thank you, Councillor Crandall.
Yes, thank you very much.
You're welcome. This is a great group.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
Bye,
Bye everybody.
Thanks, Tara.